If you have the Base sound system in your BMW E70 or any BMW, you have the weakest system available. And it's weak. I'm talking real weak, like N54 turbo seals.
Objection, hearsay.
Wait, you asked the question.
Okay.
Anyway, here is a complete step-by-step guide on how to transform your Base system E70 into an Alpha 1 beast. In the shop today is a 2010 BMW E70 diesel with the Base audio system. Now the Base audio system is going to give you 2 tiny and weak subs and 4 mids, 1 in each door, all powered by the iDrive head unit, which is completely unacceptable because that's right, there are no tweeters and no amp. And the only way to change this is with a complete overhaul with the Alpha 1 audio system. This is going to give you access to more powerful subs and mids, and finally, you can have tweeters. But to unlock the full potential of what this sound system has to offer, you're going to want to pair it with the Alpha 1 amplifier. Now, to learn more about this amp and these speakers and the installation process in general, then keep watching this video. But if you want to get straight to the installation, then go to this time right here. Our speakers are direct plug and play with the mids and subs, and our tweeters will fit perfectly in the A-pillar trim once you source the parts with the correct grills. The biggest addition is from our amp. It will be installed in the rear of the vehicle on the existing amp bracket. However, BMW doesn't even include an amp on base option BMWs. BeamerTech supplies all of the harnesses you need to install the amp and power the subs. You'll get the main power harness that runs from the amp to the head unit, the harness that runs from the amp to the subs, the power cable for the amp, the ground cable for the amp, 2 jumper cables for the factory sub-connectors, and a USB cable for the amp. As for the parts that actually make noise, you'll get the amp with mounting bracket, 4 A40 mid-range speakers with 4 filter cables, 2 A10 tweeters, and 2 subs. Now, to complete this installation, you will need to source a few parts on your own, like the A-pillar trim with speaker grills. Now, the customer did go ahead and find the parts so that way we could hook up the center speaker channel as well. While this is not part of the kit, we did go ahead and do it anyway since the customer did source the parts. This kit is going to give you a sound in your BMW that you've never experienced before. Crystal clear highs, crisp mids, and deep lows. The amp will allow a range of headroom like never experienced, and each amp is custom tuned for your listening style and your specific model of BMW. Installing all of this will take you a few hours if you've never done something like this before. You have to take off lots of panels, unbolt the seats, and quite a bit more. You'll be dealing with a lot of different bolts and screws, so our BeamerTech DIY Essentials Kit with Trim Toolkit will really make this easy. This toolkit has everything you need to get the job done and more, and it's great to have around the house in general. In this video, we're going to show you everything you need step by step to get these speakers and this amp in your E70, from removing and reinstalling the trim, head unit, seats, connectors, harnesses, and so on. Each person who orders from us will also get a detailed set of instructions in a PDF file that you can use to help guide you through the process. Now, in the event you don't feel comfortable doing this yourself, head on over to our website and find one of our certified installers near you. We have them in about 30 countries around the world. And hey, if you're near Orlando, Florida area, well then stop on by and then we can do it for you. And if you still need help after all that, our support team is only a click or phone call away to help you with troubleshooting, installation questions, and more. And that is what we pride ourselves with here at BeamerTech, going the extra mile to make sure that you get the service and support that you expect. And now, without further ado, Jarrett, and I at one point, will install the complete Alpha 1 system in this BMW E70 with the Base audio system. Enjoy. Let's first start by disconnecting the battery. Open the rear hatch and tailgate and lift up the floor panel. Remove all of the T20 torque screws holding the battery cover and storage bin down and remove it. With a 10mm socket, remove the negative battery terminal and set it aside. Now let's get to the installation by accessing the head unit. Start by using a BeamerTech trim tool to remove the center AC vents. Remove the 3 connectors by pulling. For the HVAC controls, remove the 2 T20 screws at the top, then use your trim tool to remove the controls. Remove this locking connector by pressing down the center tab, then rotating the arm up. For this one, press down the center tab and pull. For the last one, pinch and pull. To remove the head unit, start by removing the 4 T20 screws. Next, cover your center console to avoid scratching it and begin sliding the head unit out. Be careful with the CD control fascia as it's easy to snap. Now we can start unplugging the head unit. It was hard to get a good angle here, but we have a complete video on how to remove cables like this, link in the description. For these 3, pull out the white tab, then pinch it and pull it out. For the quad lock, press in the sides and rotate the arm. Ones on the left side, push the tab in and pull them out. Let's move on to the footwell panel on the driver's side. Remove the 3 T20 screws. Pull the panel down, disconnect it, and remove it. Remove the hood latch by removing the Phillips screw. And the Phillips screw under it. We'll get to removing this side trim in a second. Move to the back and start pulling up the weather stripping to access the trim. Keep in mind we're doing this to feed the main harness from the amp to the head unit up this way. Once clear, use a trim tool and your hand to start pulling up on this trim. After awkwardly getting in the back seat, pull back the weather stripping. And begin to pull the B-pillar trim off. Pull it away and down. After that, pull away the lower B-pillar trim and front door sill trim. You will have to remove the weather stripping up front. If any fasteners get left behind, just pull them out and stick them back in the trim for later. pull out the trunk latch trim. Now let's feed the main BeamerTech harness from the front to the back. Take the side with the connectors for the amp as shown here, and feed it down behind where the head unit will go and down into the footwell area. Pull it all the way through until you reach the end. Once at this point, take the BeamerTech quad lock harness and connect the BeamerTech main harness to it like so. Now we have to relocate the fiber optic cable from the BMW quad lock to the BeamerTech one. To get some slack, peel back some of the tape holding the harness together. Using a pick tool, pull up on the plastic tab holding it down, then pull the fiber optic out, and relocate it to the same spot on the BeamerTech quad lock. Connect the BMW quad lock to the BeamerTech quad lock. Push them together, then rotate the arm to lock it into place. Tuck everything out of the way. If you want, use some tape to make the harness pretty again. Now let's tidy up that main harness and get it run. Start by tucking it under the carpet behind the pedals. Continue down the left side. Keep feeding it all the way back. To get it to the back where the amp will go, let's start by lowering the back seat and get the seatbelt out of the way. Carefully pull this seat piece as the fastener can be brittle over time. If the fastener remains behind, pull it out and put it back on the trim for later. To remove the rear trim panel, use your BeamerTech trim tool to remove this fastener. And this one. Pull off this panel like so, and then there are two more fasteners here. and here. Come on, Jared. There you go. Pull the panel away and set it aside. The amp will go under the gray box on the left, so get the harness in that direction. Jarrett decided to use cable ties to secure the harness to the factory harness there to help the installation look nice and clean. This will stay here until we install the amp, which is now.
Start by exposing the battery. If you need to, use our supplied floor panel support. Let's attach the ground. Locate this 8mm nut and stud near the taillight assembly. With an 8mm socket, remove the nut. Then slide over the negative terminal of the supplied negative wire and tighten the nut back down. Now let's run the positive wire from the kit. Feed the side without the fuse underneath this rail to where the amp will go. With a 10mm socket, remove this nut from the positive side of the battery terminal. Slide over the end of the BeamerTech positive terminal and tighten it down. While we are here, let's get the sub-harness in place so we can get that hooked up too. Take the end with the main connector and feed it through the back seat. Thanks for dropping that, Jarrett.
Put that back up there.
Use cable ties to secure it in place. Let's feed the side that goes to the passenger sub to get the slack right for the amp. Start by feeding the lead under this rail like so and pull it all the way through. And now the powerhouse. Let's get the amp in place now that all the wiring is set in place for it. Attach your ground wire first. Insert it into the ground terminal on the amp, which will be the one on the right labeled G and D. Make sure you double check which side you're putting this in, or bad things can happen. With a 4mm Allen wrench, tighten down the locking screw on the terminal to make sure the lead is secure. Do the same with the positive lead on the left side labeled plus 12 volts. While you're here and have the side of the amp exposed, go ahead and put your USB cable in. This will be used if you ever need to digitally access the amp later for things like tuning. Flip the amp around and insert the 20-pin connector like so. Then do the same with the 6-pin connector. To begin the actual installation, take the supplied speed nut and place it here on the amp bracket like so. Orient the amp like so, and using the 8mm supplied screw, secure the amp in place. Once secure, use cable ties to tidy up the cables. After your orientation is correct, you may choose to reinsert the connectors if you find the harnesses are tangled. Now let's run the sub harness on the driver's side. Using cable ties, secure it to the main harness you ran before while heading down the wheel arch. After that, you can simply feed it next to the main harness. Jarrett is now going to run the part of the harness for the center channel. This will apply if you have sourced the parts and ordered the speakers yourself. If you have not, you can skip this part. Please contact us ahead of time if you plan on installing center speakers. Run the leads behind the carpet behind the pedals. Then up behind the head unit area. After all of the slack is pulled through, start feeding it up like so. To make things easier, let's remove the two T20 screws holding the screen down. And remove the screen. Disconnect this cable by pressing in the tab and pulling. And this one by pinching and pulling. Keep feeding the leads up. Use your BeamerTech trim tool to pry up the center grille. Using a T20 bit and ratchet, remove the 4 T20 screws holding the blank. Remove the blank. Feed the speaker lead up to this area.
Now that the amp is done and harness is run, let's move on to the speakers.
We're not going to cover how to put these speakers in here in detail, but you would just drop them into the factory speaker bracket you supply. Plug the BeamerTech filter cable into one slot in the speaker and the tweeter in the other. Then plug the center channel connector into the other end of the filter cable. We'll cover plugging in the speakers in more detail in the next section that comes with the kit. Put the bracket in place, screw it down, and replace the grill.
Is that my dad?
Reinstall the screen, and we're done with the extra part of the installation. At this point, we can begin plugging the head unit back in. Plug in everything you took out. But now the BeamerTech quad lock will go in place of the factory one. For a closer look at how all of these cables go back, see our video on that topic. Link in the description. Gently slide the head unit in place. Anyway, replace the 4 screws. Then grab the HVAC controls and plug that in. Snap it back into place and then screw it down. Plug back in the AC vent section and snap that back into place. Let's replace and wire up the subs to get them out of the way. Start by sliding your seat all the way back. You may have to temporarily reconnect your battery to do this. Then, with a T50 bit, remove the 2 bolts holding the seat down in front. In the rear, remove the 2 plastic seat rail covers. Next, remove the 2 T50 bolts here. You may have to slide the seat forward. Tilt the seat back to expose the sub grille. Remove the 4 T20 screws holding the grille down. Remove the grille and pull the carpet back to expose and remove the 4 T20 screws holding the sub enclosure to the E70. Once all of the screws are out, unplug the sub and pull the enclosure out. Separate the enclosure. And with a T15 bit, remove the 4 screws holding the sub down. Remove the pitiful factory excuse of a sub and drop in the Alpha 1 sub. Reuse the 4 factory screws to hold it in place. Snap the top half of the enclosure back on. Take the supplied BeamerTech jumper connector and place it over the factory sub cable. With the way the factory system is wired, this will be needed to make sure the speakers in the doors work. It's magic. Tuck it out of the way. Place the sub back into the recess of the floor and plug in the connection from the Alpha 1 harness. Tidy up the excess slack. Reinsert the 4 screws to secure the sub down. Reinstall the grille. And finally, reinstall the seat. Now let's run and install the other side. Remove the fasteners on this spare tire carpet panel so we can slide the Alpha 1 harness under. Feed the harness under like so. Make sure it's under the rail and pull it through. Replace the fasteners. You'll notice the side panels are off. Jarrett removed them for something else, but you don't need to take them off. At this point, Jarrett is replacing them, but again, you don't need to take them out. Getting to the passenger sub and replacing it is the same as the driver's side. You'll also have to remove the same amount of trim on this side to run the sub cable. Once it's all run and secure, plug it into the sub. Don't forget to add the jumper cable on the factory BMW sub harness like you did on the driver's side. At this point, you could start replacing all of the side trim and weather stripping you took off on both sides. Jarrett also took some time to tidy up the excess slack on the USB cable. You can also reconnect and put the driver footwell panel trim back. Last but not least, the door speakers. Let's start with the driver door, where I will step in to tackle it before Jarrett gets in for the day. Use a trim tool to pop off this handle trim and slide it off. Under it is a T20 screw you will have to remove. At the bottom of the door are two more T20 screws. With a trim tool, remove the window switch controls. This is another one of those arm connectors, so press down on the tab and rotate the arm. Under are two more T20 screws. Remove trash. Using your trim tool and hands, pull the door panel away from the door. Pop off the handle cable. Pull off this connector, which can be finicky. Unplug the factory speaker. Make note of which one goes to the tweeter, which you can see up near the A-pillar of the door. Remove the last one down here and pull the panel away. While we are here, let's install the tweeter. This E70 has the trim with the tweeter grills, but if you don't, you will have to source this trim as well. Pull the trim back and pull out the foam backing. Snap the tweeter in the trim. And place the foam backing in behind it. Route the cable through the channel in the foam. Snap the trim back in. Be mindful of the weather stripping. Plug the tweeter into the open connector that BMW has to tease all the base system owners with. Use a cable tie to tidy up all of the slack. Back to the door panel, remove the 3 T20 screws holding the speaker in place. Put in the Alpha 1 A40 mid and screw it down. Remember that filter cable we talked about? Well, here's a better look. Take the side that says mid out and plug that into the speaker. Either port on the speaker will work. Your tweeter will go in the other port, and the factory lead from the BMW will go into the other side of the filter cable that says amp in. Bring the panel back over to the door and plug the tweeter lead into the A40. Again, making sure you have the right one by checking the wire colors, and the other lead into the filter cable. Hook everything back together and route everything the way you took them out. I always give the handle a quick test. In this case, it was unresponsive, and I noticed the retaining clip on the other end popped out of place. I popped it back on, and the handle worked. When placing the panel back on, line up the lock pin, Then snap it down from the top and carefully push back in on all of the fasteners. Replace all of the T20 screws. Reattach the window controls and snap the unit in place. Finish up by snapping the door handle trim back in. Before we move on to the back door, the only difference with the front passenger door is this handle. Use a trim tool to pop it off, which you'll see when we get to the back door, and you'll find 2 T20 screws under that you need to remove. As we move on to the back door, you'll see what I mean. Using your trim tool, pop off the handle trim. Remove the 2 T20 screws underneath. Like up front, use your trim tool to remove the door handle trim. And then remove the T20 screw behind it. There are also 2 screws in the bottom of the panel. Once all the screws are out, use your trim tools and hands to pop the panel free. Instead of disconnecting everything, I found it easier just to support the panel in place. Unplug the factory speaker and remove the 3 T20 screws holding it in place. This one was stuck, but it popped out and the Alpha 1 speaker went right in. Put the filter cable in the same way you did up front, mid-out into one of the ports of the speakers. Line it up and screw it down. Plug it in. Line up the door pin. Slide the door panel down and pop it into place. Replace all of the screws. The lower trim handle. And the door handle trim. Reconnect your negative battery terminal and then put the cover and storage bin in place. Replace all of the screws you removed on it. Close everything up and you're done with the installation. But there is one more step.
Finally, the speakers are installed. Now, while audio will play through the system, it's not going to sound very good because your head unit still thinks it has the original speakers. To change this, we need to get your head unit coded to 676 Hi-Fi. Now, you could do this with a BMW remote coding session booked through BeamerTech. Now, to learn how to book a remote coding session, click the link in the description for a full video on that.
After you book a remote coding session, you're going to want to follow the steps as instructed by our technician. When told to, you'll plug in your coding cable into the OBD2 port, which is located right here.
And that is how you install the complete Alpha 1 kit in your BMW E70 with the Base audio system. Piece of cake, right? Now our customer can enjoy sound the way it was meant to be with this Alpha 1 complete audio system. If you don't want to take our word about how amazing these speakers sound and how amazing this amp is, well, tons of other people are saying the same thing online. From Trustpilot to forums, YouTube comments, and more, people are in love with these speakers and this amp, including Frank, who said, "The sound is amazing compared to OEM speakers, the service by BeamerTech is next to none, and shipping was fast." If you want to transform the bass sound system of your BMW E70 or almost any modern BMW or Mini, then head on over to our website, enter your VIN, and find the Alpha 1 kit right for you. For more product reviews, installation videos, tips and tricks, and so much more, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and don't forget to ring that bell. And hey, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. Thanks for watching.